Hi ghosts and ghouls, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to do a bit of a get ready with me slash sort of tutorial slash story time type of thing. I'm gonna show you guys how I usually do my makeup for Rin Hoshizora and Honoka Kousaka. But at the same time, I also kind of wanted to talk to you guys about an issue in the cosplay community that's been weighing on me that I've addressed on my Instagram before, but I kind of want to just like sit down and chat with you guys. So that's what we're gonna do. So first things first, I'm just gonna start doing my makeup and then I'll sort of get into the chat about the more serious stuff. And as I go, I'll just show you guys the products that I'm using. So I don't usually use primer because it makes my makeup come off faster, I've noticed. So I'm just going to go straight in with foundation, and this is the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless 102. It's the lightest shade they have, basically, because I'm pasty. So yeah. Okay. An issue in the cosplay community. There's a lot to talk about. This community is flawed, and don't get me wrong, I really love cosplay, and I love, you know, I've made a lot of really awesome friends in this community, and I love what I do. I love this hobby, but, you know, I can't sit here and pretend that we don't have a lot to work on as a community. And one of the biggest problems, for me at least, is harassment and inappropriate conduct between people who are, you know, older than 18 and minors. And especially I've noticed this is a problem with photographers. Now, I don't want to make you guys think that it's dangerous to shoot with cosplay photographers, because the vast majority of them are amazing, and I have so many friends, sort of, I mean, photographers that I've shot with who, you know, are basically friends because we've kept in touch, and they're awesome, and I work with them over and over again. But you also kind of have to be careful, because working as a cosplay photographer is a really great way for not so great people to interact with and get close to minors in cosplay. And this comes from personal experience for me. So here's where the story time sort of comes in. When I was 16 and I was at Anime Central 2016, it was Saturday evening and the masquerade had started, and my friends decided to go and see it, but I wasn't really interested, so I wandered off on my own. This is not something I encourage at conventions. Not because conventions are inherently dangerous places, but because, God forbid, anything does happen, it's just safer to be in a group. People don't bother you when they see that you're with others because it's intimidating. So if you're worried about going to a con alone, or say you don't have any friends to go to a con with, that doesn't mean you can't go to cons. On the contrary, you can walk up to anyone at a con and make a friend in a second. That's what I love about the cosplay community. Everyone's very open, very inviting. But there is an issue of, you know, when young cosplayers do end up alone, they are easier to sort of prey on for, you know, not very good people. And what happened to me was I was sitting alone. I was cosplaying as Kyoko Sakura from Puella Magi Madoka Magica, and I was sitting by, if any of you guys have been to ASEN or know the Rosemont Convention Center in Chicago, I was sitting by the indoor fountain, just sort of minding my own business, and a photographer came up to me and asked me if I was doing anything. And I said no. And he said, do you want to shoot with me? I'm not doing anything. I don't have any shoots planned right now. I like your cosplay. Do you want to shoot with me? And I was 16 and I was a little bit naive, and I hadn't been to very many conventions alone yet because I was going to them with my parents often, and with friends. So I'd never really been alone at a con. And so I was just kind of starstruck that anybody wanted to shoot with me, because I'd never really done a proper photo shoot before. I didn't have the money to pay for them. So it was just kind of, it was like a really cool experience to me, and I was like, hell yeah, like I want to shoot. So we didn't go anywhere. We stayed by the fountain. And for the most part, this photographer was very kind and sort of made it out that he was like aware of boundaries and that he didn't want to make me uncomfortable. And so I thought, you know, that he was a good guy. And at the end of the shoot, now, mind you, Kyoko Sakura is not the most modest of characters. And so I wasn't posing in any like provocative way, but I also wasn't like too careful. And she does have that keyhole cutout where her soul gem is, and I wanted like a pretty close-up. I had one of my fingernails painted with the symbol that she has, so I wanted like a pretty close-up of the soul gem. And I wasn't really thinking anything of it, but looking back on it, it's like that was an invitation for him essentially to like take photos of my chest. So I felt pretty stupid after that for a while. I was also wearing a pretty short skirt, and I always wear safety shorts underneath, but some of the angles that he took photos of me were looking up. So looking back on it, he totally could have upskirted me without my knowledge. I'm not saying he did. I have no proof that he did. I only have the photos he gave back to me, which were like 5 to 10 tops. But it always sort of weighed on my mind that that was a possibility. By the way, I'm using Tarte, and I just used Instant Age Rewind. Sorry, I'm like forgetting to show you guys the products, but basically I use this one for blemishes and this one for my under eyes because it's a bit lighter. So anyway, we exchanged Facebooks so that he could get the pictures back to me after the convention, and we went our separate ways for the night. And I didn't think much of it. Now, fast forward a couple weeks later, we've been chatting since the end of the convention. Just light, sort of friendly chit chat. And I noticed that he was a bit of an oversharer. Like, he was telling me things that like he really had no business telling me, sort of about his personal life. And I was uncomfortable, but I didn't want to be rude, so I just kind of like gave him one-word answers and like laughed and shrugged it off and hoped that he would change the topic on his own. And I just figured, whatever, I will humor him, I'll get my photos, and that'll be the end of it. And there was a cosplay meetup coming up in downtown Chicago just a couple of weeks after Anime Central. And I was gonna go. I decided to go. And he was like, are you going to this meetup? Because it was a public Facebook event. He was like, are you going to this meetup, and do you want to like shoot there? Because I'm gonna try and go too. And I was like, well, okay, an opportunity for another shoot. What's the problem with that? So I said yes. And I was a little sketched out, so this time I was like, I told a friend, and I was like, could you come with me? And I felt safer with that. And the day of the meetup came, and it turned out that he couldn't make it. And that was fine, I didn't really care, but he thought that I was mad at him for not being able to make it, and so he insisted that we shoot the next day instead, since he couldn't make it that day. And my main problem with that was I had another meetup the very next day, but it wasn't for cosplay, it was for Lolita Fashion, and it was an invite-only event. And he insisted that I let him do a photo shoot with me sort of in my Lolita Fashion instead. And I told him, like, no, you can't come to this meetup. And he was like, you know, this is what I do for a living, right? And I was like, it's invite only. You can't come. And he was a little bit aggressive, and it freaked me out. So I decided, like, I'm done with this guy. I'm just gonna move on. But he continued to harass me through Facebook after that, pretty consistently for the next couple weeks. Where's my blush brush? There it is. And I tried to sort of just ignore him and just be polite about it, because I'm not usually a super confrontational person. This is Urban Decay Crush. And I usually concentrate my blush sort of higher up by my eyes for anime characters, especially idols. So he continued sort of like oversharing and treating me like his friend instead of like his client. And I wasn't okay with that, because to me it was a photographer-client relationship. I was not his friend. And he was also 12 years my senior. I was 16 and he was 28. And so I was uncomfortable. He was like telling me about his wife and his social life and how his friends were treating him badly, and, you know, how he, just all this personal stuff. I don't even remember the details. And I'm not a therapist. I was a 16-year-old girl and I didn't know how to respond. So I was like, you know, oh, that sucks, or, you know, oh, I'm sorry you're going through that. And tried not to make him think that this was a conversation that I wanted to continue. But he was under the impression that we were friends. And when I sort of stopped responding, he got upset. And he was like, you know, why don't you want to shoot with me anymore? Like, I thought we were friends. And I was like, I'm just gonna be honest with him. And I told him, like, we're not friends, I'm your client, and I can't help you with these personal life issues. All the while I was trying to be polite about this thing, he was also sort of coming on to me in a kind of sort of creepy way. And he would sort of interject here and there in our conversation, like, he would insinuate that he wanted to do more provocative photo shoots with me. Like, he said he also did car modeling, and that he would love to, like, combine his cosplay shoots with his car modeling shoots. And car modeling is usually a pretty inherently provocative type of photo shoot. It's usually like pretty girls with short dresses leaning up against the hood of a car, and that's fine. I have no problem with that, but I was a minor and not interested and creeped out. And so I realized this guy either doesn't care that I'm a minor or doesn't know. And he said, sort of my breaking point was when he said, like, I've always wanted to do, like, a sexy hentai shoot. And, like, I would be for doing that with you if you want. And I was like, oh, hell no. No. So I told him, I'm like, haha, like, that's funny, but, like, I've got 2 years until I'm even legal. And he was like, oh, I thought you were, like, 22. He never asked my age. He just assumed that I was 22. So he was trying to get me to do hentai shoots, which, creep alert. Oh my god, I gotta concentrate. Give me a sec. Eyeliner is hard. Oh my god. It's like I do the same thing every time, and every time I freak out about it. I'm like, I just poked myself. Don't let anyone tell you eyeliner is easy. Don't. They're lying. Okay. I'm probably gonna fast forward through all that, but eyeliner. So I told this photographer I'm a minor, I'm 16, I'm not going to do hentai photo shoots with you. And his response to that wasn't, oh, sorry, like, I thought you were older, or sorry to make you uncomfortable, or, you know, oh, never mind. It was, oh, well, if you want to do that when you're older, like, I'm down. Like, a kind of, I'll wait for you kind of thing. And I was like, no, we are cutting off contact right now. It eventually got to the point where he was always wanting to talk to me, and when I would ignore him, he would get angry and either assume that I was mad at him or that he'd done something wrong and sort of make it a pity party. And I might insert some like screenshots of our conversation. I'll blur out his name because it's not important. He's already been put on blast in the Chicago cosplay community, and I don't want to get involved with it anymore. Like, I'm done. But I sort of just was like, I just decided that this was not gonna continue. I was uncomfortable, I was sketched out, I was pretty sure this guy was like a total creep. And so I told him, like, I'm not comfortable with the way that you've been talking to me. Like, I just want my photos and to go our separate ways. And he was like super offended by this. And he was like, you just used me for photos. I'm like, you're a photographer. Like, I didn't use you. You're the one who asked me if I wanted to shoot. He like assumed that he would be like getting a friendship out of this, and it was strange and uncomfortable. And he was very juvenile in the way that he spoke and the way that he sort of just responded to things. So essentially I ended up blocking him in the end. But before it even got to that point, he was like insisting that I call him, and he wanted to like talk on the phone and like get things like sorted out. And I was like, no, dude. Okay, so my camera died midway through filming that, but we are back. It's been like 2 hours, but I think I remember where we were. So all I've done is just taken this Brow Wiz from Anastasia and drawn a line to sort of mimic the sort of like eye bag waterline type thing. I don't remember what it's called in Japanese, but so that's basically all I've done. So what I was saying, after all of this contact with this photographer, and you know, things were getting way out of hand, I was way creeped out. He kept insisting that I call him. At one point, you know, it was like nearly midnight. I had a raging headache, and he was like, you have to call me, like, we have to talk. I was like, stop texting me, I have a headache, I'm going to bed, it's a school night. And it was just way out of control. And I told him stop contacting me, essentially. I was like, your behavior towards me is inappropriate. I'm not your therapist, so I can't help you with your problems with your wife, and I'm not your friend, so I can't help you with your problems with your other friends, and I'm a minor, so I'm not going to do the photo shoots that you want to do. I told him basically just stop contacting me, and I blocked him we were speaking through Facebook Messenger, so I blocked him. But he still had my number because he had convinced me to call him a day or two before, just because he was harassing me about it so bad. I was like, okay, I'll just talk to him once and then he'll leave me alone maybe. No, that's like not how it worked. But so then he was texting me instead, since he was blocked on Facebook, which is like, if someone blocks you in one place, like, don't go texting them in another place. That's stupid, and like, it's harassment. So I blocked his number too, so he couldn't contact me anymore. And I sort of warned my friends. I was like, if you see this guy, don't shoot with him. And then sort of left it at that, and that was kind of it. no, that was not kind of it. Like, I thought that was gonna be it, but it was not. Unfortunately, it got worse. So, okay, I'm gonna interrupt myself again. So what I'm gonna do is add some white underneath my waterline and then go in with glitter eyeliner and then some glitter that I put on my cheeks, because we're idols and we Kira. And I might add a little bit more highlighter, and then I'll do an inner corner highlight with some eyeshadow. That's pretty much all I do for my eyes. I don't usually add color because the way that the idols are animated, it doesn't usually look like they're wearing any eyeshadow. For more like tsundere type, like sassy characters, sometimes I'll go and add a bit of red right under my waterline right here, kind of like if you guys know 02 from Darling in the Franxx, kind of like that. But I don't usually do that for Rin and Honoka, so that's what I'm gonna do. So anyway, a couple months pass and I was in summer school trying to sort of make my life easier for the next year by getting some credits out of the way. And I was sitting in class and I got a Facebook notification from another cosplayer in the community with a picture of this photographer and his profile on the sex offenders registry. So obviously I freaked out, and basically it turned out that he had been arrested and detained for over a year for possession of child pornography. And this man had taken photos of me and harassed me, and so I was really freaked out, and rightfully so in my opinion. I ended up having to leave class and like take a breather because I was sort of panicking, and I was glad that they were getting the word out and that this other cosplayer was letting people know who he was and not to shoot with him. And I was really angry, but I was mad at myself for being so naive. And I just want to emphasize to you guys that if you are harassed by someone verbally or sexually or in any way, it's not your fault, and you should not put the blame on yourself. It is entirely the fault of the perpetrator. So blaming yourself is something that society kind of makes us do a little bit. It's sort of perpetuation of rape culture, and the idea that like if you got drunk or you wore a short skirt or you talked to the guy and then he harassed or assaulted you, then it's your fault. And that's not the case, and it's a really toxic way of thinking, and it's a really toxic thing to perpetuate. I won't perpetuate that idea. I just won't. I think it's bullshit. So I just want you guys to know that like if something similar has happened to you and you kind of are blaming yourself for it, don't. I mean, it's hard, obviously. It's not that easy, but try to, you know, forgive yourself and realize that you're not the one who like committed a crime. And you don't have to call yourself the victim either. You can call, you know, you can call this person a perpetrator or a criminal or whatever, but that doesn't mean you have to call yourself a victim. So I just wanted to say that and sort of get that out there and make it very clear that it wasn't my fault and it's not your fault if something similar has happened to you. So that's that. Where are my brushes? So from then on, I tried not to get too invested for the sake of my safety, but at the same time, I wanted to make sure that no one else had the same experience with this guy. Sorry, my dog's barking. I don't know if you can hear that, but I wanted to make sure that like he got what was coming to him and that he wouldn't be able to go to conventions and harass anybody else. So I got in touch with the cosplayer who had made that Facebook post, and I told her what had happened to me, and she was in a whole legal thing with him that I won't get into because it's not my story to tell. And I didn't want to get involved in like a legal battle. I didn't want to like go to court. But I supplied her with any information that I had that, you know, that could help her case, and I left it at that. And I let her talk to my dad, you know, the adult in charge of me at the time. And like tried not to let it, you know, get to me. But it did. It just kind of hovered over me for a while. I remember he popped up again around finals the next year. So this was my sophomore year of high school. Yeah. It's my sophomore year of high school, and he crops up again. And, you know, it got to the point where I was like I went to like the school therapist, like the school counselors, to talk about it and to get help because I just didn't know what to do. And I ended up calling the convention center. I ended up calling ASEN and getting in touch with the people who run ASEN and telling them like, you need to make sure that this guy like can't get back on your premises. And I also called the officer that was listed on the website under his registration for sex offender registration. And I called that officer, and they basically said to me like, he was detained in our jurisdiction, but because this event happened outside of our jurisdiction, you need to report it to the police where it happened. And like, I couldn't even report it to the police where I lived. I had to actually go back to Rosemont, and Rosemont is it's in the suburbs of Chicago. It's where the convention center is. I had to go back to Rosemont and report it to the Rosemont police, and I did. And nothing really happened. Like, I got a sense of, you know, like, okay, this is gonna be fixed, and I felt a little bit better for a little while, but then it didn't really seem like they were actually doing that much. And because he hadn't touched me, I felt like they weren't taking it as seriously, which is really unfortunate. And no one should ever be made to feel that way. But that's the truth of the situation. So essentially, once I made the police report, I tried to just move on with my life, and I did. And, you know, I gave people information when they, you know, talked about having the same issue with him, and I basically said like, hey, I had the same issue with him, like, you should report it too. But I tried not to get too involved, and I sort of forgot about him. Eventually, it took a while for it to stop bothering me, but I eventually forgot about him. Now fast forward. My dog is here. Hello, puppy. Hi. Come here. Hello. Say hello. Come here. Hi. What a wonderful interruption. Sorry, I'm just sitting here like picking old glue off my eyelashes before I apply them, so I'm just gonna talk. But okay. Fast forward to December of 2017. I am now 18 years old. My birthday is in November. So I'm not really thinking about this guy anymore, but I have sort of learned my lesson, and so I've been wary of photographers since then. And I'm sitting at the convention with a friend of mine who I won't name. And a photographer approaches her and asks if she wants to shoot. And My alarms are just going off in general because they always are when photographers ask me or my friends to shoot. And so I told her like that I would sort of keep an eye on it because they were gonna shoot like right there. So I was sitting down. I think I was like eating a snack. I just told her that I would watch. And something was kind of rubbing me the wrong way about this guy. First and foremost, he was wearing a mask. He was wearing a Deadpool mask. And I was like, it's one thing for a photographer to be in cosplay. It's another thing entirely for a photographer to be wearing a mask while shooting, because like, how are you supposed to see the camera properly when you're wearing a mask? So I was really weirded out. And also, I noticed two other defining features. One, he was kind of short. Two, he had a recognizable voice, like his voice sounded familiar. And I pulled my friend aside for a moment and I was like, hey, I think this is the photographer that harassed me. Like, I think he's back. And she was like, are you sure? Like, you can't see his face. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like, I recognize his voice and I remember that he was kind of short. So like his height seems to fit. And she was like, okay, you know, I don't think it's him, but like, just to be safe, like, will you come with me? And I was like, yeah, of course. And I went and I said hello to the photographer and I asked him, I was like, can you, like, how are you shooting with the mask on? Like, can you see? And he was like, yeah, like the eyes are mesh, but basically what he was doing was like deflecting my question so that he didn't have to take the mask off. Like, I was kind of hinting that like I wanted him to take the mask off. And he kind of like was deflecting it. And so I was like, I said to my friend, I pulled her aside again. I was like, can you like get his Instagram and like show me his photos? Because I remember also that he wasn't that good of a photographer. Like, he was clearly just using it as like a way to get at younger girls. And so I said to my friend, like, hey, could you like get his like social media account so that I can see his work and sort of see if I can tell from that if it's the same guy or not. And she did. And I realized now that these weren't his photos, but the photos on his page were like quite good. So I was like, there's no way this was the same guy. Like, he did not have that kind of skill. And even 2 years later, like, he just doesn't seem like the kind of guy to be putting that kind of effort into his photos. And so I figured it's just a coincidence. And he asked my friend if she wanted to go up to the roof of the parking lot to shoot instead of staying in the hotel room. And she was kind of sketched out and she was like, could you come up with me? And I was like, yes, of course, I will come up with you. And when he saw that I was coming with, he decided, he goes like, oh, wait, actually, never mind, like, let's stay down here. Which was like sirens going off in my head, like, he recognizes me. Like, he knows why I'm coming with. And so I let them shoot because I didn't want to make accusations that were false. And I was like, I have my eye on my friend. I'll make sure nothing happens to her. I'll make sure there's no funny business going on. And I won't make accusations that I can't prove. So I didn't. And the convention came and went, and she got her photos back. And I realized that I was right, because other girls were saying, hey, watch out, this photographer is back, he's going to cons wearing Deadpool masks. And I was I was mad at myself because I was like, how did I not realize? Like, I should have just trusted my gut. And I was so angry because not only had I made a police report, I had told the convention center to look out for this guy and to not let him in because he was a sex offender and because he was on parole and he was shooting around minors. She was shooting minors. He was taking photos of minors. And no one bothered to ask him to take the mask off. And like at registration, I don't even think he had a badge, to be quite honest. But I think there needs to be a rule at registration that you have to take your mask off when you get your badge. Like when they check your ID. Because what's the point of checking someone's ID if you can't see their face? Like, how does that make any sense? but they didn't. No one did that. And he got in and he harassed other people. And it just made me really, really upset. And I called the convention again and let them know. And I also contacted the vice president of the convention because I knew her from something else. I just happened to meet her in another community. So I messaged her and I was like, hey, you're the VP of Con Delete, right? I just want to let you know that like this guy is going to your con and harassing people and you need to do something about it. And she was like really nice about it and was like, I'm so sorry, like, yeah, I'll like let the president know, like we'll take care of it. We'll let security know. And I was like, okay, cool, thanks, awesome. Nothing happened. It's like she didn't do anything. She did tell the president, and what he did was he took this information, she provided him with screenshots, he posted the screenshots of my conversation telling the vice president about this guy and about what he had done. And he posted this conversation online without my permission, and he twisted it to suit his agenda of, this is why we're so adamant that people don't ghost, and this is why you have to buy a badge. And that is just so shitty, because that's not the main issue here. The main issue wasn't that he didn't have a badge. The main issue was that he was harassing people and no one was doing anything about it. And essentially, we're just having camera troubles today, so I'm gonna try and finish this up. Anyway, essentially, it took a long ass time for this issue to be resolved, and it's not really 100% resolved yet. He's not contacting me anymore, and my friends know who he is, and so he's not contacting them anymore because they have him blocked. But he keeps making new accounts. So what he'll do is he'll make an Instagram, he'll post his pictures, someone will find out that he's made this Instagram, he'll delete it and start over again under a totally new name, and he just does this wash, rinse, repeat over and over again. It's disgusting and it's scary, and the idea that he's still doing this and he's still harassing people really, really angers me. And there are a lot of girls who can't do anything about it because they're not minors anymore, or they weren't minors. But he chooses girls who look young but still sexy. So like half of the people that he's harassed were minors at the time, and half people weren't. So they can't do anything about it. And it's just, it's really bad. But basically, okay, why did I share this story with you guys? Like, first of all, I want you guys to be aware that this kind of thing happens and to be careful and to take care of yourselves. Two, I don't want you guys to blame yourselves if this happens to you. And three, I want you guys to know sort of what to do if you face something like this, which is report it. Like, don't stay silent, report it. Call the police, call the convention center, call the hotel or convention center security, and let them know. And if it happens to you, like, okay, if it's over the internet, that's one thing, like it was for me, but if it's at the convention and someone touches you or says something inappropriate to you, you go and find security right then and there. You don't wait until after the con to contact them. Like, go right then and there and say, like, there's a guy following me or taking pictures of me or touching me inappropriately. He looks like this, and you need to escort him off the premises. Because this photographer was supposed to be banned from Midwest conventions, and he still got in. And that's a huge issue, and that needs to be fixed. So I just really like had to get this story off my chest and like share it with you guys. And so I hope you enjoyed listening, and I hope that it was helpful or educational or whatever. And I really hope that none of you guys have to deal with this. So that's sort of the end of the story. If you guys have similar experiences and you want to share or vent or talk about it, feel free to, you know, drop a comment down below or DM me. All of my social media is in the description box. I love hearing from you guys. And while I can't, you know, necessarily help in terms of like getting rid of creeps. I can, you know, give you guys moral support and be like, you're doing great, sweetie, and, you know, contact the convention, get help, and like I can always lend an ear to listen, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, that's sort of the end of it. That's really all I had to say. I'm just gonna finish up my makeup now. I've never really used this before, so we'll see how that goes. It's watery tint from the Face Shop. So let's see how this goes. It tastes like, or smells, tastes, whatever, like lychee. Like lychee? That fruit. I don't hate it, but it's weird. Okay, how do you guys do that gradient thing? I'm like, this is not what I'm going for. Did I do it right? Am I a proper idol yet with my Korean lip tint? I have no idea. Did I get everything? Eyebrows. Oh my god, how did I forget eyebrows? You guys. Talk about scatterbrain. Gotta make my eyebrows orange. I don't like shave my eyebrows or like glue them down or anything because I'm way too low maintenance for that. So what I just do is I take an angled brush, and this is not a Sephora shadow, it's just in a Sephora pan. Just an orange eyeshadow, and I just whoop. And you know, it's not an exact science. You know how they say eyebrows are sisters, not twins. Mine are more like second cousins twice removed, but you know, if it works, it works. My eyebrows are a bit unruly as well, so like, I'm trying. I don't really do anything to them. I just leave their natural shape and like pluck in between. So, you know, they could be nicer, but usually my bangs cover them anyway, so it doesn't really matter. That is way too strong in the center there. Okay, it's a bit better. Oh, this lip tint's doing something weird. And I did this the first time that I tried it. I like did a test run yesterday with it, and I was like, oh, I'll figure it out tomorrow. But it like, the pigment stays right there, and then the rest it just like fades. So it's like a really weird, it's not a gradient, it just gives you like a candy stripe line. I don't really know what's up with that. I'm just gonna fill it in with something else. Okay, this is my other favorite lipstick to use for idols. It's, unfortunately, it's limited edition. It's from MAC. And there's tape on it from when I moved. It's called, Lipstick, Luster Lipstick Where No Man Has Gone Before. That's the, like, shade name. It's from the, Star Trek collection. So there's, like, a cool little insignia on it. Right there. I'm a Star Trek geek, so like when I heard that MAC was like doing a Star Trek collection, I was like, I'm gonna buy all of it. I did not buy all of it, but I bought like 3 things. I bought a highlighter and eyelashes and this lipstick. And like, okay, the eyelashes were blue and I was like, I can use them for Vriska, and then I got out of Homestuck, so like, good job, past Max, but such is life. There we go. Anyway, this is just like a nice shiny pink. It's got like gold glitter in it. There is something similar in the permanent line, but nothing exact, which is really sad because I never want to run out of it. But, and we're done. This is how I do my makeup for my orange-haired idol girls. I'll be right back. I'm just going to put my wig on. Okay, so all done. I've never cosplayed Honoka before. This is my first time, so I hope you guys like it, and let me know down below if I should cosplay her more, because I do plan on cosplaying her, what is it, Bokura no Life, Kimi to no Life cosplay from the sparkly version that the seiyus wore. So that would probably be my only Honoka cosplay ever, but I don't know, I like her. I've never cosplayed her, and I don't know why, because I feel like we have a lot in common. We're both bubbly and obnoxious. So, but yeah, I really hope that you guys liked today's video. If you want me to do more chit-chatty things, more story time sort of videos, let me know. If you prefer just traditional tutorials, let me know as well. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Thank you all for supporting me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!